Enterprise, Trade and Industry with a marathon 6 years. She also has the longest journey of any Stormont minister every day to Belfast. She's from glorious County Fermanagh, but she's here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Arlene Foster.
Well, thank you very much, Mark, and Lord Mayor, ministerial colleagues, distinguished guests. I'm delighted to be here in what is absolutely a packed Titanic centre, and I'm still very excited every time I come into this building to think that we created this beautiful, not monument, I think, living innovation to commemorate what happened way back in 1912, but also to look to the future as well. So it's great to be back again. And I do want to thank Colm for his speech. He talked about finishing the job in relation to broadband, and he will know that he and I share a job to do all of that, and I welcome the fact that BT is working very closely with my department in delivering on our promises in relation to broadband. And I'm sure there are many MLAs here tonight who will make sure, Colm, that BT finish the job, and I'm sure they'll be after me as well. But it's good to hear your commitment in relation to that, because Northern Ireland, of course, is very much ahead of the curve in relation to our digital economy, and it's down to the collaboration that we've had over this past number of years that we're able to say that. Also want to thank Kevin for his words, and in particular the fact that our responsibility in moving Northern Ireland forward and indeed looking to the future in terms of the growth of our economy is something that we share. It's a burden, it's a responsibility that we share. It's not just about leaving everything up to government, and there is a certain tendency in Northern Ireland that if anything happens or if anything goes wrong, everybody looks to government to fix it or to do something about it, and I think that's a legacy, frankly, of where we've come from. But it's good to hear Kevin talk about the fact that the business community needs to work in collaboration with government, and certainly I'm going to say a little bit about corporation tax in my comments later on. I'm also very much relieved that Jeremy Paxman is sitting down there with you and not up here with me, interviewing me, because I don't want to risk being Paxoed, of course the term used to describe the memorably difficult times he has given to politicians over his 25-year tenure at the helm of Newsnight, and many nights I watched it. 17 years on, it seems Michael Howard is still remembered more for that infamous 1997 encounter with Jeremy than for many of his policy ideas. But on a serious note, Jeremy, you're very welcome to Belfast. I should say welcome back, of course, to Belfast, and I very much look forward to hearing what you have to say later on. But it is a Northern Ireland, I hope you will agree, that is confidently moving on. A Northern Ireland that has seen a total of 8,126 jobs, and yes, I do know every single one of those jobs, announced this financial year so far, including 600 at City today. And it's a Northern Ireland that has seen our Economic Development Agency, Invest Northern Ireland, record its best ever set of in-year results. Results that have included the highest number of jobs ever promoted in a 6-month period, already surpassing last year's performance. And when I tell you that 13-14 was a record year, it really underlines the significance of this year's figures to date. And Alistair looks forward to my new targets when I set them. He always looks forward to his targets. And on top of that, during the first 6 months of this financial year, Invest Northern Ireland has secured £40 million of investment in research and development, and importantly, 22% of that has come from small and medium-sized enterprises. Also, figures just released this morning confirmed that 2013 was a record-breaking year as well for Northern Ireland in terms of research and development spend. Total research and development investment was up by 3%. From £624 million in 2012 to £645 million in 2013. In cash terms, it's the highest ever expenditure recorded. It's also encouraging to see an increase of 16% over the year in the total R&D expenditure for locally owned companies. So the message is very much getting through in relation to spend on R&D, and I really do welcome that. And as well, we've seen further growth by our small and medium-sized enterprises. So the progress is hugely impressive. We very much need to build on the increasing numbers of success stories amongst Northern Ireland-based companies in terms of innovation, because it's becoming increasingly important in terms, and Kevin touched on this, in relation to exports and new markets. It's why in September the Government agreed the innovation strategy for Northern Ireland, which takes us from this year 2014 up to 2025. And the strategy is setting out long-term actions in terms of Northern Ireland to be ultimately recognised as one of the UK's leading high-growth, knowledge-based regions, embracing creativity and innovation at all levels of society. Local businesses have been responsible for over half of the jobs promoted. That's something that's not often spoken about. Seems to be a lot of attention on our foreign direct investment, and I can understand that. But our local businesses have actually created half of the jobs promoted and nearly half of the investment commitments as well, showing that they are making a very substantial, and you are making a very substantial contribution to our economy. But our proposition is also continuing to be increasingly attractive to new investors who are choosing to locate their businesses here, right across Northern Ireland. And I recently announced that the world's largest law firm, Baker McKenzie, were establishing a base in Belfast. Other new investors have included EY, Alexander Mann Solutions, SSE Airtricity, and US technology company Proofpoint. Our economic growth prospects are positive, and on average, independent forecasters are predicting that the local economy will grow by 2.5% this year, followed by in and around 2.3% in 2015. Activity in the production sector has increased by 5.1% and services increased by 2.6% over the latest year. And according to HMRC regional trade statistics, exports of goods have increased by 4.6% on a rolling year-on-year basis. And that's positive news, and I welcome that. But it's also been reflective in the unemployment figures, and the number of claimants have fallen in each of the last 22 months. And that is the most sustained decrease since June of 1995. But rather than rest on our laurels, we appreciate that we cannot be complacent and that there's much more work to do. And given what we've heard from Kevin tonight, and given the body that I'm addressing, I of course want to reference corporation tax. Being able to set our own corporation tax rate would allow us to control our own economic destiny by rebalancing the Northern Ireland economy in terms of growing our private sector much quicker than would otherwise be possible. Yes, we are starting that journey and we're engaged in trying to grow the private sector, but if we had that rate, the ability to lower the rate, we would make a huge step forward. We are unique in terms of the UK. We're separated from elsewhere in the UK and share a land border with a key FDI competitor that offers a much lower corporate tax rate than the rest of the UK. And a decision on whether we will be granted the powers is expected on or before the Chancellor's autumn statement on the 3rd of December. And we've made a strong case, but it's not just government making that case, and I do recognise that we're making it from a governmental point of view on a 5-party basis, something quite unique, I think you'll all agree. But we're also making it with the business community, and a very strong business community voice has been heard. We're making the case then together to have the powers devolved, and I do remain very optimistic that a positive decision will be reached. Significant progress has been made on how the regime would work in practice, including a consideration of a number of technical issues to ensure that legislative approval for devolution of corporation tax can be secured early next year. And should we get a positive decision, when we get a positive decision, while it will still be another 2 to 3 years before the devolved powers can be implemented, the Northern Ireland Executive would seek to make an early announcement on any rate cut. And this would provide certainty to business. It would also allow Alistair Hamilton and his teams right across the world to start attracting investment to promote the lower tax rate to foreign investors right away. Red tape is also something that I get talked about. I get talked a lot about, and I've known that it has frustrated many people in this room. And you'll be glad to hear that the department's review of business red tape is nearing completion, due to report to me early next week. And I must say I have been very encouraged by the very positive engagement with the wider business community, and indeed the important role played by the Northern Ireland Chamber of Commerce throughout the consultation process. Also want to say a little bit about energy, which I know is something that a lot of people in the room want to hear about. It affects us all, of course, and I first of all want to welcome the recent Sony announcement that AES Corporation has been awarded a contract to provide an additional 250 megawatts of generation capacity from January 2016, when the European Union emissions legislation takes effect. And that additional capacity was procured by competitive tender to ensure the least cost to consumers, but it's necessary to have it there because we want to ensure that we have enough generation for all of our consumers. And while the contract will be for an initial 3 years with an option to extend for a further 2 years, delivery of the North-South interconnector remains a very important longer-term security of supply issue for me, and it's needed very much to reduce the constraints on wind generation. Being a Fermanagh woman, you won't be surprised that I also welcome the progress being made in taking gas to the west of Northern Ireland. The utility regulator recently announced that Northern Ireland Energy Holdings, or Mutual Energy, and Scotia Gas Networks are the preferred applicants for the new licences to develop the required network. The government has approved up to 32.5 million of a grant towards the project, and it's very much hoped that the initial works to deliver the new gas networks will commence in late next year, with main pipeline construction and the first customer connections being from 2016 onwards. And taking gas to the west will provide 40,000 or up to 40,000 energy consumers, including businesses, a more efficient, lower carbon and potentially as well, and importantly, a cheaper choice of fuel. So while we know how much Northern Ireland has progressed in recent years, it's news we want to share with the world, and I think you know that I'm very passionate about that. We want to encourage as many people as possible to come and see what we have to offer, and thanks to a sustained period of world-class events, and we've heard a little bit about those tonight, it seems our message is being received loud and clear, and I'm very happy about that, because latest tourism figures indicate that the overall visitor numbers for the first 6 months of this year showed a 5% increase on the same period last year, with associated spending increasing by 10%. And the figures covering the period in which we hosted that wonderful event, the Giro d'Italia, which was an absolutely spectacular success, they're included in the figures. And we also have tremendous events to look forward to next year: the return of the Irish Open, this time to Royal County Down, the return of the tall ships to Belfast, and confirmation this week that the world number 9, Ricky Fowler, will join Rory McIlroy in the Irish Open lineup. I think it's another tremendous coup for Northern Ireland, and we're very much looking forward to that. Irish Open's due, of course, to return again in 2017, and then the big one, the Open, coming to Royal Portrush, and we're going to be optimistic and say it's here in 2019, and that's the earliest date we can have it, but we're very much going for that date, and we want to see it happening very soon. And of course, it would be remiss of me not to mention the wonderful boost this week for Londonderry when the city walls were named as Northern Ireland's most iconic location in an online poll to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the National Lottery. And I had to smile absolutely when I heard Radio Ulster trying to manufacture some rivalry by putting the walls up against the Giant's Causeway. But the wind was somewhat taken out of their sails by one well-known walking tour guide extraordinaire, Martin McCrossan, who quite rightly stressed, and it was a very important message, that these days it really is all about brand Northern Ireland, and that all of our attractions work together to ensure tourists stay longer and see as much as possible of our wonderful landscape. And I very much thank Martin for that comment, because, you know, just because something happens here in the city of Belfast doesn't mean that other parts of Northern Ireland lose out. In fact, it draws people in, and that has been the experience with this marvellous building here, Titanic Belfast. People come to go around the exhibition, and then they move out and go to other parts of Northern Ireland. So we should celebrate that, and I hope that you do. Our international standing, I just briefly want to talk about the phenomenal success of our creative industry sector, not least, of course, HBO's Game of Thrones, which has been responsible for the elevation of Northern Ireland to number 2 in Lonely Planet's top 10 wonders of the small screen world. We'll get number 1 next year. And County Antrim's Dark Hedges has received top billing, along with other filming locations such as Tullymore Forest Park, Castle Ward, Ballintoy Harbour, Murlock Bay, and of course Marble Arch Caves in County Fermanagh. I always have to mention Fermanagh, you know it's part of my contract. But anyway, the strength of the industry has been driven largely by our growing reputation globally for attracting large-scale inward investment productions, such as Game of Thrones, yes, but there has been others as well, and I'm delighted to see this week that ITV has commissioned a 6-part drama series, The Frankenstein Chronicles, which will also be set here in Northern Ireland, and we'll see Sean Bean return. Of course, he was here for Game of Thrones, and he's coming back for that. We've had a considerable number of other high-profile credits under our belt, like Universal's production of Dracula, the BBC's hugely successful The Fall, to name but a few. But of course, Northern Ireland has also had a successful independent production sector as well. But whilst I'm on the media theme, it seems apt that I finish by returning again to our guest speaker tonight. I'm obviously the warm-up act. I don't mind, it's fine, I do it all the time. But Jeremy Paxman, who once noted that, and I quote, "The English approach to ideas is not to kill them, but to let them die of neglect." Well, Jeremy, I hope that having spent time with the talented people in this room, you'll agree with me when I say that's absolutely not the case when it comes to Northern Ireland. We have a dynamic and innovative approach to ideas, particularly when it comes to business. We work together because of our size. We can encourage, we can incubate and nurture those ideas, and by doing so, we ensure that we're given the support needed to help them flourish and grow into realities such as this fabulous building here, and that will ultimately, I hope, create tangible benefits for the economy. So, Kevin, Mr. President, thank you for your invitation to be with you tonight, and in the spirit of language inclusion, bon appetit. Thank you.